Good morning. It's Tony Dattino, the founder of the USA Memory Championship, and we are in the early stages of planning out our 25th USA Championship event that will be held in September at Full Sail University. We've got people signing up for the qualifying rounds, which we'll be doing in July, using the Memory League online applications, or online applications, software. This morning I want to talk about the exercise we do called our mystery guest. The Memory Institute is hosted by the YMCA here in Dr. Phillips, Orlando, Florida. And the Memory Institute is taking people that are looking for mental challenges or social interactions or things that can help them with their long-term mental and health and cognitive fitness. And we limit it to a number of people, 16 people in the workshop, and there's a lot of exercises that are through it, from physical exercise to mental challenges to art to music to an exercise we do called the mystery guest. And the mystery guest is we bring someone in that none of the attendees know, and we have them sit in the front of the room, and we have them just sit there for a few minutes and just let the room of 16 attendees look at the person. And what we usually require are at least the attendees to come up with 6 questions that they would like to ask our mystery guest. So looking at him, or he or she, what were some things that you'd like to know about this person? Now, the purpose of the exercise, as we continue to find out, is the importance of social interaction and not feeling alone or isolated. And many of the people that come into the Memory Institute have this loneliness and this feeling of, I just sit home and watch TV and I'm not very active in my life. As I've gotten older, I've lost friends, or I tend to be in more pain, or I have things that inhibit me from being more active and physical in my life. And so I sit home and stare at TV and maybe the walls. And so our goal here is to teach them there are some simple skills and some simple interactions that you can have when you go out grocery shopping, or when you go to the doctor's office, or when you go pick up meds at the drugstore. There are simple ways of getting to meet other people that are not offensive and that actually create a positive experience, so that when you are finished with your day, you have this joyous feeling, you have a happiness about you that has some lasting impact. First, letting you know that you have the ability to go out and meet other people, and it's fun, and you learn things that are just engaging and make your day go by quicker. But more importantly, give your life something a little bit more fulfilling. So we're not just looking to pass time and make it go faster, but we're trying to enrich the time that you have with social interaction. And so in the issue of March, April, Discover magazine, they talk about the importance of happiness is other people. The connection satisfies a deep bodily need, like water relieves thirst. The connection of other people. So this goes on to say, humans are intensely social creatures, and research increasingly suggests that losing connections to other people has a negative impact on our health. So within this Memory Institute, as we bring someone to the room, we have them sit in a chair, and we have the attendees then come up with, what questions would you like to ask our mystery guests? What would you like to know about them? So in just looking at this person, what would be some of the things that you would find interesting? Or safe questions that aren't going to be offensive, that would engage and begin to engage in a conversation that then just has its own connections and it takes its own pathways. So in this week's mystery guest, they came up with questions such as, obviously, how old are you? I guess maybe you don't ask that to everyone. You certainly want to ask them, maybe, would you mind telling me how much you weigh? So there are some questions that you want to be sensitive to, but in this case, they wanted to know how old the person was, and he was not embarrassed to give an answer, which then surprised them because he was a lot older than what they thought he was. So that made for a fun conversation. Gee, what is it that you do or that you've done in your life that makes you look 10 years younger than what your actual age is? And that's always a fun conversation. And you meet people sometimes that look so much younger than their age, and there's so much work being done on that. So that's always a fun one. They certainly wanted to know, where did you grow up, and what are some things about your family? And so, and what do you do? Is there any activities that you engage in that keep you looking so young, or things that you do? And that engaged in so many conversations. So the first thing we do is we learned he grew up on a farm in Nebraska. So this week's mystery guest then made connections with other people that grew up in Kansas, and somebody that was in Oklahoma, and we had this interesting dialogue of the Midwest of the country and the values and things that come out of growing up in the Midwest that you then cause you to move at some point in your life, a job or career or spouse, bring you to East Coast, in this case to Florida. And so that generates a conversation of, well, when you went from Nebraska or Oklahoma or Kansas, well, what brought you to Florida, which is where you are now? And so people have an opportunity to have an interactive dialogue with the people living in the Midwest. So how did you go from where you were in the Midwest to being, you went to Maryland next, and then from Maryland you came to Florida. Somebody went to New York, and from New York they came to Florida. And somebody went to Chicago and then came. And so we got to learn what their life pathways were. And that just generates a whole fun conversation. What did you do for a living? And so here our mystery guest talked about, well, he started out as a school teacher, which brought him into how he taught kids and made them have fun and enjoyed their lessons. And that generated a conversation with the people. My goodness, why aren't we teaching kids in school some of these things today? And how have we lost some of those fun experiences where kids really enjoyed being in school, and they enjoyed the interaction of the teacher with the students, and they enjoyed the interaction with other students? And so our mystery guest then brought to hear a couple of songs that I would have the kids work, and they just would love it. And so we engaged in some music, and we had some entertainment not entertainment, we had a sing-along with some of the songs that he was a part of. We eventually found out that this mystery guest from the farm and going to Minneapolis, where he now has his grandchild, is going to bring him from Florida to Minneapolis. And that generated a conversation. Wait a minute, and don't you think this is going backwards? Don't you want to go from Minneapolis to Florida, where it's warm and you avoid the cold winters? And from there, we learned that our mystery guest is an usher for the Minnesota Twins, and also participates in the Minnesota State Fair. And that generated a conversation around horses and fairs and animals and people and rides. And so the one that was interesting is, while he was here in Florida, he was a member of the Christmas show that they put on at Epcot. And we found out one of the participants in the actual workshop, one of the 16 members, was a conductor on the Disney Railroad. And so we did all aboard, and so that was a fun. And so my point of the social interactions here is, just by thinking of questions you might ask someone that you meet, what does that open up in terms of the dialogue, and where that dialogue just becomes fluid and just becomes very natural. And it brought me back to my early days of listening to cassette tapes as I would travel back and forth to work. And Wayne Dyer, who at one point said, if you're waiting at a train station or a bus stop, or you're waiting for at the airport, the people around you are each a book. And so why don't you just think of a few questions that you might ask the person you're sitting next to, or that you may be sitting at a grocery store or sitting at a doctor's office. Just have a conversation that is safe by thinking of some innocent questions. You may compliment them on a shirt that they have. You may look at them and say, wow, I think I've seen you here once or twice before, or how is it that you picked this doctor out, or God, what brings you, what days do you go shopping, and do you find this store has usually got the shelves stocked well on your days that you shop, or you see that this is the least crowded, which obviously people got very interested in during the COVID epidemic in terms of going to the grocery stores and least crowded, and do they always have the best fish or the best meats or the best produce? And what days do you find? I mean, there are just so many interesting conversations that you can have with people by just stepping back and thinking about some of the safe questions you might ask them. And as they say here in this article, nurture your relationships. A growing body of research shows that people with close-knit connections are not just happier, but they live longer, are better protected against stress and depression, and are less susceptible to inflammation and various diseases. And I said, boy, I'll sign up for that. And have fun while you're doing it. And what you learn from talking with other people is just brings a whole new joy and happiness to life. And to that, it is Friday after the end of the week. It was not Friday afternoon yet. My goodness, I did this on Friday morning. So it's not the end. It's the end of the week, work week, and it's off to Saturday, Sundays. Here we are in Windermere, Florida, with temperatures in the mid-80s, and so we may spend some time at the community pool over the next few days as we watch some of the basketball games that are on and the tournaments that are going on today and tomorrow, the Big East and the Big 12 and the Midwest conferences and things. So it's basketball season, basketball playoffs, it's March Madness, and we're looking at St. John's this year. And so we'll see how they do in the tournament. Look, have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week.